Our first talk, and I'm going to invite Vishwas Patel onto the stage. So very fascinating. Do you know a background about Vishwas? Of course, we all know him as the founder and CEO of CC Avenue. It's like the go-to name and Asia's largest e-commerce service provider. But did you know that he was a practicing lawyer? So he served at the Bombay High Court. Do you know that he owns an Italian restaurant and about to start a Thai restaurant? Did you know that he actually runs a garment company present in about 100 cities and very, very well known? I mean, look at him and what you're looking at is a fantastic serial entrepreneur. And who better than Vishwas to come and really kickstart our startup track? Vishwas, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. So, okay, so I'll just make it a quick 3-4 minute a basic thought what's required in an entrepreneur, and it all starts with the thinking, and then we'll go on with the chat with the other panelists. Sorry about this, guys, but I was told to first present the thought and then we'll take it on this one. So the first thing basically entrepreneur is required in every stage of life is always is about brutal thinking. What do you mean by brutal thinking? Because everything starts up here, and how you evolve right from the start to the other thing that is there, right from your startup idea. You need to be very clear. You need to be very brutal in your thinking. You can't leave some part, this thing will happen later, it won't happen. You need to think through everything that requires. It requires brutal thinking in a sense that if something is given in a way of world today, how it happens, you need to change, you have to think that why it is happening and why you can make the change. So brutal thinking is required in a sense that today, I will give you examples of different entrepreneurs, but today if I just have to run a thought, like in my company, I run a thought, let's talk about India and let's talk about India's independence, right? And I was just put a question in a sense that, give us 3 guys freedom fighters whom you think that were responsible for India's freedom. So the 3 names that mostly crop out within my company, between my employees one was Gandhiji, one was Jawaharlal Nehru, and of course Subhash Chandra Bose. So we did a survey amongst people and told them that who do you think was actually responsible for India's freedom. So there was a lot of thought. So I thought, why not run it here? So those who think that, let's start with Gandhiji. So who do you think Gandhiji should be given primary credit for India's independence? Those who are in favor of Gandhiji, please raise your hands. Let's just see. So I see around 20 odd hands. If I have to take Subhash Chandra Bose, wow, not many soldiers. And Jawaharlal Nehru, any congressmen in the house? Not more. I think it's a city of Aam Aadmi Party, right? So if you look frankly, and if you do brutal thinking on the way who was responsible for India's freedom, like I would say it's another soldier where it comes up to this one. It's Adolf Hitler. Now, when you think that, okay, Adolf Hitler was responsible for India's freedom, then everybody just suddenly wakes up, because this is brutal thinking what requires from a businessman that requires it. If you see the kind of thoughts that have happened during the freedom time, like if you see when Great Britain, if you know, quarter of the world's land and a fifth of the world's population was under their control, right, in 1921 if you see. But if you see what Adolf Hitler did to him in 1942, like starting from 1940, 1 year into World War, Great Britain was bombed heavily by Adolf Hitler's Air Force. Liverpool was heavily bombed, 4,000 deaths there. The North Sea port of Hull was subjected to 86 raids and killed 1,200 people, and 95% of its housing stock destroyed. Other ports like Bristol, Cardiff, Portsmouth, Southampton, Swansea, everything if you see. And right if you go to the bottom at London, more than 1 million London houses were destroyed and damaged, and more than 40,000 civilians were killed. Now this is going into the heart of the Great Britain. And if you see, what do you think, it started with Winston Churchill, and then Clement Attlee came in, and then again Winston Churchill came in. Those were trying days. And what do you think the Great Britain, the people who are controlling Great Britain must be thinking at that time? That, okay, we are spread out too far, we are spread out so much that, okay, we are getting so badly messed up internally. They were drafting people, Britishers from the age of 18 to the age of 65 into the army. And the whole idea, it was like the sun has not only shut down on the British Empire, but it was 6 floors below, where they remained for 57 nights when the bombing was happening. And that's when the change effect happens, that you see that, array, why are we so spread out and other things. So if you see the general trend, so right up to 1940, if you see the British Empire and the Antarctic claims were so high. But then you keep going down to 1950s, 60s, 70s, that's when India, Burma, Egypt and these things. On a change level, on a macro level, we think, yeah, this is, wow, this is how the British Empire suddenly gave freedoms and other things. And from our patriotic selves, we give credit to other things like a practicing advocate of Bombay High Court, a slim thin figure who married a vivacious Parsi woman, became the Quaid-e-Azam of Pakistan, whom 150 or 180 million Pakistanis think is responsible for the freedom of Pakistan. Okay, so that's what the thing. But if you see from the macro picture, what made the change in Great Britain? We always look internally, that is there. That is brutal thinking, is what we have to think about. That is there. Like even if you see an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos think that when you throw a rocket, like NASA is quintessential American, patriotic, right? But they question that when you throw the rocket, do the payload, satellite payload is cut off. And then when you think that why does the rocket go away? You should question it, why can't you get it back so that cost of sending out satellite comes down to 1/10 of the cost. Same thing, you have to keep challenging everything that comes in. That's brutal thinking when I say is that you can't go with what is given. And that's, I want to start off this conversation, this is a small intro, brutal thinking is all about. Be very dispassionate. So from a entrepreneur perspective, you need to have brittle, but when you come back, when you start thinking from your heart, yes, Gandhiji was responsible because he being a fellow Gujuman and also his face is there on all the currency notes, I love money, so Gandhiji was according to me at the patriotic level. But as an entrepreneur, please have brutal talks. Don't give what is already given to you and start thinking on all aspects. Don't leave everything like a Mungeri Lal that, okay, ye sapne mein ye ho jayega, baad mein nahi. Be very brutal in your thinking. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishwas. Really appreciate it. That's a good way to start. And a great way to continue is to have a panel discussion really on this, on the embryo of starting out. What's the first step? And how does one really do a good job? And for that, we have 3 entrepreneurs who've been there, done that, and very successfully at that. Then we have a venture capitalist that focuses only on startups, and then a startup catalyst who help accelerate entrepreneurs who are going to come up on stage. So first, I want to invite, so Vishwas, I want you to take up stage, please. And then I'd like to invite Dippak Khurana, founder and CEO of Vserv. Thank you, Deepak. Guys, give them a warm welcome. Talking of clapping, we have Urban Clap and the co-founder of Urban Clap, Abhiraj Bal. Thank you, Abhi. And then Priyank Sarup, the vice president of Axel Partners, who focuses deep into startups in the commerce and mobile area. Thank you so much, Priyank. And Ajay Ramasubramaniam, the director of Zone Startups India, which is a Canadian-based organization where they really focus on helping startups really take up the boost and also inviting in innovation within big corporate companies. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming over. I'm going to first start off with a very simple, I mean, the topic is on the first steps to entrepreneurship. And I want us to start off with Ajay first and talk about, you've seen lots of startups as part of Zone Startups, the organization. So tell us about what do you see is the most important thing for somebody to start up. So before you start, a quick poll out here. How many of us are people working in corporate companies but have entrepreneurial aspirations? In the next 1, 2, 3 years, you want to start off. That's a good chunk. Thank you so much. How many of you have already taken the jump, moved on from an entrepreneurial life and are right now entrepreneurs? Raise your hands. Right? Great, thank you. How many of you here are students? But that's not a bad one. So I think we have an equal split between wannabe entrepreneurs, and students as well. So with that view, Ajay, I want you to start up about what is the most critical thing that people require before they begin to start it.
Great. Thanks, Krigo, and thanks for the audience which is here, because 20 minutes back this room was like empty, and I was having a chat with him and was wondering, are people even going to give away some of the other parallel discussions and going to be here? So thanks to everyone. So yeah, coming to your question and the hand or the round of or the show of hands which went by. So people who are interested in starting out a venture in India, still no one is funding at an idea stage. So I think he would agree with me. But people who are interested in probably just brainstorming or checking out if their idea is good enough or if they would want to really start up. So you can always have a chat with me or my colleague Ankur, who is here. Ankur, you can raise your hand.
You want to turn around, Ankur, just so people
Yeah,
know.
people can see your face. Yeah. So yeah, coming to the question itself. So one of the things that we have seen, and probably this holds good everywhere, and whether it is someone who is fresh out of college or comes with about 5, 8, 10 years of experience, one thing that we have found lacking, and everyone would want to see, is getting their idea validated. A lot of people end up spending a lot of time, resource, money, building out something without even checking if is there a customer who is really out there. And this applies for both, whether it is a consumer-facing product or whether it is something someone is building for an enterprise. And running an accelerator, so we have a portfolio of about 60 odd companies that we have built over the last couple of years, and we have met with probably close to 1,000 companies, if not more. And we have come across folks having had a very good, solid corporate experience where they've spent 8 to 10 years in some good, really big organizations, heading large teams, eventually went the way of entrepreneurship to build something. But even in their cases, no validation. They went out, built out something, assuming that there is a customer out there for it. But when they go meeting people to actually sell their product, they realize that, oh, okay, I spent 18 months building something for which there is absolutely no customer out there. So I think the one or the one of the more important things that people need to consider when they are thinking of going down the route of entrepreneurship is to get their idea validated, not by friends, family, or people who are going to pat your back and say, hey, kudos to you, you decided to go the entrepreneurial way, but probably go out to forums where, like what you did at the beginning of the session, mingle around people who you absolutely have no clue who they are or where they came from, and throw out your question and ask, hey, if I'm building this, are you going to be one of the customers, or what do you think about this? So get your idea validated is one of the more important things that we would like to emphasize on.
Priyank, so give us an idea of what sort of startups that you're looking out for when people come in. What are the kind of startups that you invest in? So give us a quick background.
Okay, so Axel's background is we are currently investing out of a $330 million fund. We have invested in some 101 companies in India right now. Urban Clap is obviously one of our leading flagship companies as well, alongside Flipkart and Myntra and Book My Show and Freshdesk. So Axel invests in mobile, commerce, healthcare and education startups, typically internet and tech savvy, technology-led startups, essentially. Just to take the first question which you asked, for us, and in my experience has been with startups, is the first critical element is essentially the team. So we have funded a number of single founders. We have funded a number of multi-team members, like 3 to 4 team members in a team. And I think the performance of a 3-team or at least you need one more co-founder with you, because times are low. People, as a single founder, it's a lot of stress, and you always want one to support you. But more importantly, there has to be somebody else who has to doubt you, right? And that is very important, right? So otherwise, founders typically just go on in one direction, and they just don't feel the need to bounce off ideas with others. You need that dissonance essentially to keep you on the toes, to keep on constantly checking you and yourself. So I think it is fairly important for you to have that other co-founder as well. I mean, it is you. So essentially, it's for a VC. It's also a signal that you are able to. You are a team leader, because if you are a startup founder, you need to build the team around you, which is the most critical element. Ideas come and change. We have funded companies; they've completely pivoted to completely something different. So I don't know how many people know here. Myntra started off as a personalization platform to get anything printed on the T-shirt, and they ended up becoming a fashion retailer now, right? So there are stories like that all over the place in India. So I think it's very important first to have your team, that team, and I think it's very important also to don't have like attract like, to understand what you are good at and find those team members who are not good at what you are not good at, right? So find complementary. You don't want in the same organization that all 3 people look alike and same. everybody in the team should have some sort of proficiency which helps you complement and build a cohesive team for the business idea you're going after. Essentially, I think that's the most critical element. When you might not get VC funding, you might not get customer success with one idea, but you have the right team. It's a journey. So I've been in the business for now 4.5 years. I could tell you that it takes 3 years for a startup to understand what they're doing. And it takes 5 years to figure out whether you are scaling or not, right? So roughly that 3 years you will be running around. I mean, they are fortunate people like Abhiraj, which have raised a ton of funding, but typically, like out of the 100 startups which we have funded, there will be probably 20% of them, 20 startups would have raised, let's say, more than $30–40 million of funding. So the remaining 80 startups, people have basically realized over a period of time what is the right product, what are we doing wrong. So it takes time. So it's not, so if you, and a lot of people who want to leave their corporate jobs and start it off, first is please leave the corporate job. So there'll be no parachute. You will figure out what's happening in life, right? Your parents will be after you. So I'll just take 1 more minute. So the story is, I was roommates with Sachin Bansal and Binny Bansal, okay, when they started off Flipkart. And they said, why don't you come and join us as a first employee? So I told my dad, these guys are very smart and they're doing something interesting. Let me go and join them. My dad said, you get a 5 lakh rupee salary in Adobe. What the fuck are you thinking? Right? You can't go and join them, right? I come back 5 years later and my dad says, oh, these were your roommates. They built a 5,000 crore company. What are you doing in a corporate job? Go and do a startup. So, our parents have a limited worldview. Your people have a limited worldview. With all due respect to my father, he was thinking at that point of time what he thinks is the right thing. Right? So our experiences, our lives are shaped by what we know at that point of time. So being a startup founder, you have to be adventurous. You have to take the leap. I think that's very critical. And you need partners for that. I think that's also very important.
So Trent, the moral of the story is never listen to parents, right?
I think you need to have conviction. I think startup founders need to have conviction and firm belief in what they think is right. Even as VC investors, when we sit on boards, we give a lot of data and advice to founders, do this, do that, why you're not doing this, your competition is raising money, you have not hired the right people, all of that. But I've seen that the founders who are most, they listen to everything and then they do what they want to do. And they find out from that whole, the whole signals, they churn out the noise and they find what is the right thing to focus on. It does not come, for some people it is very natural, for some people it is not. So they figure that part out. I think that you need to have belief in yourself. You can't, I hate when somebody sends me a mail saying that, this is what an idea I'm thinking of, can you tell me it's a good idea or not? I think you don't want validation from somebody else. But yes, you do listen to everybody what the view feedback is.
Got it. Thanks, Ben. Sorry. Abhi, you're the epitome of what a venture capitalist really looks for, right? IIT Kanpur, IIM Ahmedabad, then goes and joins a long time with Boston Consulting Group. Flush, amazing salary, ability to go and work in foreign countries like Germany, Singapore. What the hell gave you the guts to leave such a cushy life and come and jump into entrepreneurship? First, start off with explaining what Urban Clap, in case for some of us who don't, and then get on to answering my question.
Sure, thanks. I'm the founder of Urban Clap. Urban Clap is a platform to help you hire extremely trusted, high quality local services. This could be any service ranging from a plumber, a carpenter, to a wedding photographer, a packer and a mover, an interior designer, a yoga teacher, a math tutor, basically any service that you need to make your urban life easier. When you come to Urban Clap, we help you find an extremely high quality and trusted service in your budget, and we handhold you through that entire journey.
That sounded exactly like a TV commercial.
I think your question was what prompted me to jump in and pursue entrepreneurship. I think everybody has their own reasons. For me and my founders, we always wanted to do more. We wanted to build something of our own. Devote several years to the effort of building something that we can be very proud of. Essentially did not want to sit on the sidelines. Wanted to be in the thick of things, building a large, legendary company. It was fairly evident to me at the time when I was leaving BCG that my career, if I can look back at the 10, 20 meaningful years of one's career and say that I built a large legendary company, then that would have been very, very rewarding and meaningful. So that's what it was, I think, for us. In terms of what I think is important right at the cusp of when you are starting out, I would say two things. I would agree with Priyank in saying that the team is very important. So make sure that you have the right team. But more than anything else, I think it's really important that the team is in it for the long run. So the day when we started, and for Raghav, Varun, who are my co-founders, and I, our first ideas actually did not work out at all. They were in very different spaces, and we spent between 6 to 9 months each in that idea, and it did not work out. And then the second idea was Urban Clap. But I think from day one, the day we had quit our corporate jobs, the one thing we had told ourselves was, hey, 6 years, no questions asked, right? So it's going to be a long journey, but for 6 years, we're not going to ask any questions. It goes back to, the no parachute. If you jump in and you already have second thoughts, or you're saying, let me figure this idea out, it's never going to work. You have to go all in. So the first thing we said was 6 years, no questions asked. I think that was really important. Because while it took us a while to get to that point, once we had jumped in, we went in with the right mindset. And I think the second is, and this was when all three of us arrived at going for the Urban Clap idea, I think it's very important to have a clear-cut vision. Once you know that there is a market and you've validated the market, that you can pursue for that long term. For us, is a very clear-cut vision, which is that we deliver high-quality, reliable services at the push of a button. Right? It's a one-liner, it's a clear vision, and we want to do this all over the world. So that vision was very clear for us. It never changed. The model has changed. How you get to executing on that vision has kind of changed, but the vision was very clear for us. I think these two things are very important.
Thank you, Abhi. Mobies, which is the Oscar equivalent for the mobile industry, ranked Deepak as the mobile professional of the year. Business Insider magazine ranked him as one of the most important persons in the mobile advertising world. So with all the credentials and 2 decades of experience, Deepak, how did your journey begin, and what prompted you to jump into startup?
So I am exactly opposite of Abhiroop. So when I was in college, I started doing my entrepreneurship, and I started selling rock band t-shirts. And I loved the idea of selling things then. And I started making money, and that was really my motivation. My parents never liked the idea of me getting distracted with that. As I was trying to complete my graduation, I fell in love with another business. And I said, I'm going to do poultry farming. So I left Bombay, I went to Jamshedpur, and I did poultry farming for about 3 years. And I turned into a vet. I could dissect a bird, and I lived in a farm. I never used to take a bath for about at least 7 days. And, but the idea for me was, hey, and I used to work with, obviously, a labor class. I'm far more polished in my conversations today, but back then I was very rusty because that's the kind of people I was dealing with. So did that. Very exciting period that point of time, came back and lost money on that venture. Came back to Bombay and I said, I don't have enough money to do business. Back then it was not about being an entrepreneur. Back then it was a choice between taking a job or doing a business. We never used the word entrepreneur at that time. So came back and it said that, hey, I don't have enough money to do a business, so let me go back to the corporate job. So I started preparing for my MBA. I did my MBA, and along the way, I got into Times. So I got into the digital ecosystem in '96. And luckily, I launched timesofIndia.com back in '96. The moment I was in that system for 2-3 years, or sorry, 2-3 months, actually within the first month, I got so passionate about that, I went and created an email ID called eKarma10. So I'm born on 10th Jan, and I told myself that I'm going to devote my life for eKarma. and that's going to keep me going for the next 10, 20 years there. So did that and continued my corporate journey. I was with Times, got into a startup very quickly called Intercept Technologies. That was probably one of the first online ad networks funded by Westbridge back in 98, 99. Saw the building up of a startup, was involved in building that piece. Then worked with Yahoo, then worked with another startup called Moj. And then obviously my entrepreneurial instinct were very high. And constantly what I felt was that, what am I? I am actually an individual who likes to build things from 0 to 1. That's all. Whether you put me in a job, whether you put me as a soldier in the team or you put me as a leader of the team. I think I'm good with that. So that piece for me was like, hey, I've built enough things, now what should I do more? So the first thing, so shift had to happen from corporate to an entrepreneur. And when I started Vserv, I was 37. I had 2 daughters, a younger one, and my elder daughter was about 6 years old. My wife was in the digital space. And obviously my family, didn't agree to the thought that I should take up entrepreneurship, give up a decent salary. The first thing I did was I gave up my home loan. Simple. I said, hey, I don't have any liability. Now for the next 5 years, you're not going to ask me for any money, and I'm going to see how this plays out. But I'm so driven, and I'm so anxious, I'm so restless that unless and until I don't go out and back myself and do this, I think I would be doing disservice to whatever experience I've garnered. That was my primary motivation to go out and build Vserv.
I'm just curious, how in the world did Times of India, well, I'm just imagining the interview, all right, here's your resume, oh, you're a poultry farmer, done. I'm going to hire you to build timesofIndia.com. How did that even happen?
So totally, so I would say that I met Pradeep Guha. Back then he was the guy who was the leader of that ship. I met him and I went and did an interview. Obviously, the way I carried myself, a couple of my buttons on my shirts were like open because that's the way I used to carry myself. I had a chat with him and I told him this is what I do. In 20 minutes he picked me up, and so I got into the system and I was curious myself that what am I doing in a media company like Times of India, because my experience is totally irrelevant here. So I went and asked him that what made you do that? Why did you choose me? He said that, hey, in that 20-minute chat, I could see that you are hungry to creating value and you will figure something out. So that was that was an insight which he gave me. I said, okay, he's doing lip service maybe. I didn't get to my head at that time, and I got on with my work. But I'm really thankful that he gave me that break at that time.
Got it. Thank you, Deepak. Of course, we know Vishwas is the founder CEO of CC Avenues. Lawyer, restaurateur, garment head. So how did that, talk us through your genesis of your entrepreneurial journey, Vishwas?
Okay, so primarily into real estate. So that's the core family business that is going on from the 60s, 70s, and I was getting bored, so did law after graduation, and after law I was practicing in the Bombay High Court, and then suddenly a phase came is that when you are a Gujarati and you are have entrepreneurial mindsets, because dad's already doing into business, so the mindset says that, okay, even if I become a top-notch, say a counsel, I'll be only able to earn as much as I work. So if I take a 10-day off, I won't be arguing, I won't be making money. So this is not the way business scales up. So the mindset is scalability is very important, that things need to go on. So at that time, junction, there was a phase where builders were becoming retailers, and dad's friend Raheja uncle was putting up Super Stop, and the first super mall started culture came in around 93, 94. So we should also start retail, because real estate can go on building buildings, but let's have a retail asset. So Seasons is what I started as an ethnic garment brand, because something which not any MNCs can come and disrupt. because it's a very Indian thing. It can't be produced in factories, mass quantities like a Benetton or any other brands, and requires a lot of intricacy. So that's how the apparel journey started. In a sense, we somehow got in and then did the backward integrations, developing the wholesale, putting up factories. So today we have 3 factories and around 8,000 people working in those factories. But then in around 99, 2000, we saw that since we were in Bombay, the NRI customers used to come in droves, in a sense that when you around November, December time, our sales used to shoot up like 300%. So something needs to be done to address this NRI community, because there are more Indians than us Indians here in India. They celebrate more there every occasion than what we do here. So we have to reach it out to some time. So we put seasons online, and payment gateway was in a mess. And there was no payment gateway, only banks. Payment gateways used to charge a lot and other things. So we started payment, let me build a cat, let me bid. So ultimately it's entrepreneur that counts. It does not need a tech language or anything that is there. So hired 3-4 programmers. Ajay, if you know, picked up some people from Ajay Adiseshan from Web Resource, built up CC Avenue seasons first, and then to support that, we built a payment gateway, CC Avenue. All thoughts, the logic that went behind was from what entrepreneur wanted. So that's how CC Avenue came into being. But very soon we realized that CC Avenue stands for Credit Card Avenue. And then when I looked around in India, credit cards was not working. There were less than 2 million unique cards. Today also there are only 12 million unique credit cards in the country. And then when you did that brutal thinking I was talking about, you saw that India is a debit society. Like they will spend only as much they have. Jitni chaddar hai utni phelaige. And debit cards were not allowed to be used by Master Visa online. And the banks did not allow because it was a risk connecting directly to the bank. So then we thought that we have to get into net banking and get that worked with the core banking solution providers to allow transactions debiting a bank account. And then the payment gateway picked up and other things. So this is typically it happens. Ultimately, you are an entrepreneur, be it you are doing a roti ka business or a kapda ka business or a makan ka business or an IT ka business. Entrepreneurship transcends all businesses. So even if you see a Tata, Birla, they are number one, be it in telecommunications or even a petroleum or building this, it transcends every business that is there.
Great. Thank you, Vishwas. I'm going to request everybody in the audience to close your eyes now for me. Close your eyes. Trust me on this. Close your eyes. And I want you to ask yourself, what is the reason why you chose to come to the startup track? You came here because you were looking for something important, either a solution to your pain point or an inspiration. What is that one important thing that you would like to get answer for? 10 seconds, think about it. Thank you. I'm going to request you to take your mobile phone now, open up your whatever writing application or your email, and I want you to write down the gist of what that is. Can you do that before you forget? Just take your mobile phone and just jot down what is that question or what is that you're seeking answer for. That's going to be very important because this is a beautiful opportunity for you to ask the panel. The fact that all the 5 guys who are sitting on stage is because they've been there, done that. And that will be very, very useful. So just to warm up, I've got a question for Abhi. Abhi, you started Urban Clap with 2 other co-founders, right? Now, is it advisable, and I've known people who have started with 2 co-founders or 3 co-founders, and it didn't work out for them, right? The more co-founders, the more seem to be the problem. So what would be your advice? Do you think it's a good idea based on your experience to have co-founders, or should someone start off completely on their own? What would be your advice?
I think it's very contextual, but I think starting off completely on your own, as Prank was mentioning, can be a bit of a challenge because there will be lots of ups and downs, and essentially it always helps if you have if you have co-founders who can add complementary skills to building the business. Ours is a completely tech business.
So your co-founders are friends that you already knew?
So Varun is a very close friend from IIT, and Raghav is somebody who we met during our entrepreneurial journey and then kind of stayed in touch with. I think too many cooks, of course, spoil the broth. So I wouldn't advise more than 3 co-founders. In our business, it's a standard marketplace business. So there's a supply side, there's a demand side, and there's a tech and product that sits in the middle. And so when we started, it was a pretty clean division of those 3 parts of the business between the 3 of us. Companies work well with even 2 co-founders. There are great companies with single men who make it. So I think to each their own. But I think it always helps if you have a, 1 or 2 people who you can trust and who can come together to build the company with you.
And did you consciously choose the other 2 people based on the complementary skills? I know relationship plays a very important part, but did you consciously choose people?
So I think Varun and I, have been very close friends from the first days of college. We've known each other for 11, 12 years. And even before we started out, even while we were, I was at BCG, there used to be lots and lots of weekend conversations we used to have. Many of our ideas back then were very naive, but I think it was very evident to us that we will start something together. There was a high degree of trust, and the kind of thinking and the kind of, the kind of person that he is, I always felt that he complements me very well. Raghav was somebody who we consciously decided to bring on board in the team because we were chasing a tech company, and Raghav had a phenomenal tech background. He graduated in computer science from UC Berkeley, then worked at Twitter as one of the early employees at Twitter. Saw them all the way till they IPO'd. So phenomenal and a solid understanding also on the business side. So it was a great match for us at that point of time.
Thank you, Abhi. Questions from the audience? You may want to look at your mobile phone with the question that you just wrote down. And would you like to ask? All right, just keep them ready. And I'm going to ask, there's a question for both Priyank and Ajay. You've seen tons of entrepreneurs, and they all come across, and you have more than you can handle, right? And amongst the ones that either you have helped accelerate or the ones that you've invested, some of them would have failed. What are some of the key points why startups fail? And dig into your experience of people who have failed miserably, and what are the things that people in the audience should not do?
Okay, so I'll go from the angle or perspective of an accelerator. And yes, we do have very stringent screening criteria before we bring a company into the program. And on an average, out of 15 to 20 companies that we screen, we bring in 1. They stay with us for 4 to 9 months. We provide them with a whole host of services, which includes a good peer network, a lot of mentoring, a lot of industry connect, investor connect, so on and so forth. But some of the things that we essentially look for. So accelerators and incubators typically, even though they are not synonyms and they both are very different in their own ways.
Do you want to give a quick explanation, difference between accelerator and incubator?
Sure. Probably people who are still at an idea stage, want to do a feasibility, do a marketing analytics, probably just build out something which is like a prototype. Probably they are better suited to get into an incubator. Incubators are more aligned with academic institutions, whereas accelerators in more often than not cases, they are probably standalone. Like the name accelerator suggests, you can accelerate only when you have something. You can't accelerate an idea, you can accelerate a product or you can accelerate a business. So an accelerator usually works with people or companies which have a validated product, they've got their product market fit, probably they have a small team in place, they have probably 1 or 2 beta users who are either paying them, not paying them, fine, but you help them grow organically, inorganically. That is either by helping them acquire more customers and generating revenues or by helping them get funding. So accelerators and incubators in that way are different from one another. But in a sense, both of them are communities. Communities of like-minded, fellow-minded peers who are all entrepreneurs, who are all trying to build ventures. And an inherent quality of a community like this has to be a mentality to share. Share could be in terms of resources, share could be in terms of contacts. So that collaborative aspect has to be there. A lot of times in early days, companies might not have all the resources that they might require. Some might be 2 tech co-founders and someone who is a great marketing guy, but they still might be lacking someone who might have understanding of a particular kind of business or a core expertise. But there might be a case where, for example, like Priyank mentioned, he's a former banker in one of his roles. but went on to become a VC. Probably if there might be a lot of guys who come from a very core kind of a industry expertise, but they identify a need gap in a particular industry where they go on to build a company, which might be very, very different from what their background is or what their corporate career has been. And might be one of those guys in the room of an accelerator, and you might be someone else who's trying to build a venture and has kind of identified a problem in that particular industry, which your peer is from, but you don't have an understanding of that industry. So there's always an opportunity for you to network, interact, get to know a lot of things in an informal kind of a setting. He's not a mentor, he or she is not a mentor, but at the same time you can pick his or her brain to get understanding of a particular domain, whereas he's not your co-founder, he's not obliged to do something for you, but still in a community like that, there is a lot of informal learning or an experiential learning or a peer learning that happens, which is a big uptake. One of the reasons why companies fail, even after they have got their probably product is validated as far as their understanding goes or their interactions go, you got to be very coachable. A lot of times, people come to accelerators and incubators in different capacities. People come in the form of, say, investors. People come as a successful entrepreneur or a startup who has built in a venture, raised rounds of money. Someone might come wearing their corporate hats. But hey, at the end of the day, you're meeting an individual with whom you could share your idea, your thoughts, your business, whatever, and he or she definitely is come there because they have something to give back to you. Never look at a person just with one lens as an investor. There have been cases in our accelerator itself where a banker who is a CXO of a large bank has come to prospect companies that they could probably onboard as a vendor into their panel. But meeting someone, getting floored by what they were trying to build, which is completely non-banking, and writing a check in an individual capacity as an angel. So a lot of these kind of magic happens as accelerators and incubators. So never look at people from one lens, but at the same time, someone is coming there to give back some value. Being coachable is something that does not come easy to everyone. You might just meet people, but you might just be like taking in it from 1 year and just letting it pass out gas. But you don't really value the time that someone is giving you, because at the end of the day, it is someone giving their time to you and giving some kind of lessons that they have learned, which probably you might want, if not implement, at least bounce it off with people who could be your co-founders, your peers, probably someone in your team. And people miss doing that. And a lot of times this happens to people who come with a good amount of experience because they think it is their idea, they have done the validation they require, and सामने वाला कौन है बोलने के लिए? Because I have spent my time, I have done my kind of due diligence. So being coachable is something that is important, and not being coachable is something which is probably you're doomed to fail in some way or the other. So.
Got it. Thanks, Ajay. Rayan?
So it's a very tough question, but just thinking through a bunch of things which came to my mind. So I think there are two parts. One, what Ajay referred to as being coachable, right? So as an investor, I'm telling you, I just told that a founder has to have firm belief in what he has to believe in, and he has to listen to everybody, do what he does. The problem there is that there is a difference between passion. The entrepreneurs are always walking the fine line of passion and craziness. Essentially, are you passionate or are you crazy, right? Sometimes you don't know whether I'm doing the right thing or not, right? So, and that becomes challenging. For me as an investor, it's very easy to say that, this guy is doing the wrong thing. And, so investors are programmed to say no and reject ideas all the time. And, like I was just talking to my friend yesterday saying that, so 2 of my college friends are doing a startup in home decor. And I was at this party and he's been telling me for 3 months, I'm doing this. And I'm telling him, why are you doing this? Right? You don't do this. There is Home Lane, there is Capricos, there is Pepper Fry, there's Urban Ladder. All VCs have taken, you will not get funding. But he's saying, no, I will do this. Like, boss, don't do it. I'm telling you, the VC will not get money. So I was talking to my friend here, I'm very scared about that guy. He's going to come out of a cushy job and he's going to do this. He's going to struggle for 6 months, not raise money. And he's not listening to me. And I am an industry expert. I'm telling him you can't find money. Why is he doing this? And my friend said, he's passionate about it. I said, passionate hai yaar, but be passionate about some other idea, right? So I think the problem is that it's that fine line that, and this is not the first time it has happened, right? Second, then another, like food tech companies. Everybody started food tech company. All my friends wanted to start food tech company. Right? We had invested in Swiggy. I said, boss, ab ho gaya hai, don't do it. Nahin, my food tech company is different, right? And kudos, so for example, one of my friends is running this business called Twiggly in Gurgaon. And he's doing, he's doing it for the reason that he loves to, he's saying, boss, I don't know whether it will become a big company or not, but I'm doing it for my passion of food. And just the fact that food tech fundings happened, he got money to pursue his passion. So he's saying, I'm pursuing my passion, just like Abhiraj said, right? Or that I'm doing this for, I'm giving myself 5 to 6 years to do what I like to do. So most of the companies typically fail, and a long-winded answer is founders stop listening, essentially, or they sometimes just make a wrong judgmental call in a way. I don't blame them because there's just too many things to happen. Too many things are going on in a startup. But, and that's where having the team and probably a bunch of mentors, right? So there'll always be self-doubts. I think it's very important for a founder to find that few people who are always very true to him and will give him the right advice. They might not know whether they're giving the right advice or not, but they're giving you sincere advice from what they know as facts, right? It could be your wife, it could be your parents, it could be, and you have to, again, listen to all of that, form your view. My always belief is that once you've formed a view, you can't waver. So you say, okay, I'm committing to this path. It's like a suicide bomber, right? Either, I mean, I'm going to blow up and it will create shockwaves all over the country, or, I mean,
Prayank, wrong example, Prayank. Please.
Sorry,
Like
very wrong.
In a startup event, no.
Yeah, sorry, but I mean, basically, you're committed to the cause. So actually, all the things that are coming in my mind are very wrong. So, but you have to have conviction again. So, yeah.
So instead of suicide bomber, probably you can call it the treadmill effect. Once you go onto the treadmill and it's moving, there's no way you're getting off it. You just have to increase the speed and increase the speed at which your feet are also moving. So.
All right, guys, you have questions for the panel? Yes. So let's start with the gentleman in the red. I can't miss you. You just stand out completely apart from the crowd. Yes. Do we have mics, sir? Can we pass it on? Yes, it's coming to you. There's a gentleman there. If you can just quickly go with that.
Hi, my name is Manish. My question would be quickly,
A little louder, please. Keep it closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Sure. My question would quickly target Priyank and Abhi, but obviously I'd like inputs from the other judges, the other people as well. You've talked about starting up. I just started another company. It's an IT services company. This is my second time. So the first it was a fail. The second, this was not by choice, but I was laid off, so I had to. So we've talked about passion, people doing a startup, and then I think Priyank, you mentioned about validation. So the question is, how what is the definition of validation here? I was previously looking at starting a couple of innovated a couple of products or thought of a product, and I've seen big research companies, they're probably putting some market trends.
Sorry, Manish, just get to the question.
Yeah, so I'm just coming to that. So, talking about market trends, but then when you see the sample size, they have, small fine line written there, based on sample size of 1,000 people, 5,000 people, which I don't, consider as a very genuine validation. And then, there was once that I thought that, I'll validate a product, researched on it for 5 months, and suddenly I found out that it's already launched. So, I think what my question is that, going by the current trend where you have disruption and, things moving very quickly, how would you really define the time of validation? And, as an entrepreneur, I would think, why is it, really required to get into that? Because then you talk about continuing your passion.
So are you asking for a permission from them to launch your validation? If you believe it, then just do it.
Yeah, so I think, so I'll tell you, I had met Rohit Bansal from Snapdeal. He was one of our early investors. In the first meeting in a coffee table, I had taken I think 5-6 pager deck to him. I told him this is what we are thinking. Local services is so big, everybody wants it, etc., etc. And he was like really impressed. And then he said, so what are you waiting for? I said, I was just, wondering what your thoughts are. He said, boss, itna to maine Snapdeal ke time pe bhi nahi socha tha. I just did it. Right? And I think it struck us that, like, I don't think you can overthink it, right? Try it. If it fails, it fails, right? And our first idea was basically installing a device in buses, trains, and planes which could stream movies onto your own smartphone. We figured out that there was somebody had made an Android streamer on an open source. We just put it in our laptop, and we just started taking Delhi Jaipur buses and started asking customers to pay us 100 rupees if they wanted to connect, if they wanted to get our Wi-Fi password, basically to watch the movies which were on our laptop. And people were paying. That's how we validated that idea. It was another thing that it was not a large market, etc. And startup ran into other issues. But the validation was just that simple. Get on the next bus from Delhi to Jaipur and figure out the most stupid, hacky prototype and see if there's somebody who's willing to pay for it. Yeah.
Gentlemen at the back with the beard, please. Can you just pass on the mic to just switch on the mic, please. You are.
So my question is relating to the influence of an investor on a startup, which might even sometimes be an interference in some ways. Does an investor coming into a startup and his influence depend upon what stage he is coming in, or is it really about the amount of money that he's pushing in? Because this is coming from me from background where I started up and I actually ended up rejecting a funding, and then my startup eventually dying out. So your thoughts on like.
I'm not taking money. That's the perfect situation.
Yeah, so, a short answer to that is that you will always be surrounded by people who try to influence you. Okay, but you need to cut the noise out and you need to just drive your agenda. You have to pick up things which you feel are smart inputs and quietly, ignore items which you probably believe that is free advice.
Thank you. Somebody from here? Yes, sir. The gentleman, you can just speak a little loud so people at the back also can hear.
So hi, I'm Rahul Jain. I'm currently a fourth-year student at Vserv, and we have a social entrepreneurial venture where we raise funds for angels without asking any cash from the donors. So basically, we are a student-run venture. But I just wanted to ask, how are students looked upon when they are looked upon by the VCs or angels or accelerators, incubators, when they go to pitch them, or they should they go to pitch these people, or they should wait to graduate and then do stuff like that? Because I have heard a lot of times, because they say ki either you graduate or you do something. Either you study or you do the venture. Either you drop out or you do the venture. So obviously we don't want to sacrifice our degrees and go out for the venture. We obviously want the degrees to be completed and hence.
Yeah, it's a very valid question for all students out there, and this is the thing. So, is it advisable for people after graduating out to go join a job, work for 2 or 3 years, really gain experience and jump into entrepreneurship? Or should you just right after graduation just jump in and start your own venture? What's your take, guys? How many of you have done that out here? Straight out of graduation, college, and you jumped in?
So I did three ventures while I was at college in IT Delhi. The fourth one, basically, and all of them failed because I had the same issue. So we were a team of 4 or 5 guys, and so one guy said, "Yeah, exams are, I can't do this client job." Other guy was like, "Yeah, I have to. My girlfriend is upset with me. I have to go." And right. So there are too many distractions essentially in college, and that holds true not just for you but also for people who are moonlighting in corporate jobs. As an investor, everybody wants it. I cannot give you the money if you're not 100% dedicated on the idea, right? So that is the investor spiel, right? That, I mean, it's just serious. But I think as a founder, you're doing disservice to your idea by thinking that you can manage. So forget social venture and all that, but you have to prioritize. A entrepreneur is always prioritizing between multiple decisions. So you have to say, this is more important to me than that, right? Otherwise, you will never hear a story of Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or, I mean, we don't have that many entrepreneurs in India who have left degrees, unfortunately, because your parents are after your life. But you have to be strong, essentially. Right? We idealize all these other guys who have left, now not even finished their education. But I mean, they are essentially prioritizing. They're saying this is what it is. I mean, Elon Musk has left his PhDs and whatnot, right? So I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but you have to. I can't make a choice for you.
No, I have prioritized on something, but I feel like I should graduate also, but I'm giving most of the time on my venture.
So I would put it into two things here. So one, I think you should complete your degree, your studies. Second thing is, if not, if you're ready to give that up, look at the other way. The two distinct things that should be a square off. One is, are you comfortable enough in your sense your parents are still paying your fees and it's not something which is coming from something you're doing moonlighting or something to do your studies. And second thing is, the idea that you have thought of is too compelling to give everything away. If either of the two, if both the two cross marks are there, then only you leave it. Otherwise, complete your studies.
And how are the VCs looked upon, or VCs leave VCs, how are incubators, accelerators looked upon the students? We don't discriminate, man.
That's awesome. Is that a honest answer, Ajay?
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, we are also starting. So one of the things we noticed, so with due credit to folks like NEN who are doing job at the grassroots level, we are planning to start something called a first startup bootcamp. So typically targeted at 16 to 22. 6 weeks accelerated, pre-accelerator kind of a program. So yeah, you can get in touch with us. We're launching that in May. So 6 months non-stop, one track, 1 week. So we'll work with typically student entrepreneurs in that. Yeah.
All right. So the lady at the back, please. Okay.
Okay, I think I already have a mic.
You have it. So you're powerful. Yes.
Thanks, man. So guys, my name is Hiteshi, and I just want to ask a question. Basically, if a team of people already done a startup which is already running, already on break even, and they're already doing good, basically, right? And later on, what they feel scalability issues in that particular startup because they have an idea where they can touch millions of lives every day, right? Rather than touching few lives every day. But how VC will look at such startups which they already have an idea, they already delivered it, it's already running, but now they want to move away and want to step on to the next idea, which is like, it's like that I was looking after digital marketing basically. So I left Adobe last year. We're already running a startup which is already funded by Kapil Dev, right? It's doing good. We are already on profits. We are getting profits out of it every month. But now the other idea is in the ideation stage. However, that need a lot of capital to start it. If we started without the capital,
To cut the story short, essentially, if you've proven yourself as an astute businessman in one idea, I think most VCs will give you credit for that. But the second idea will be, you proved your team, but still the problem is that team right for that particular idea is one question. Two, is the idea the right idea? I think that would be the other question. So from your first idea of what your business you did, you proved your chops in a way that you can build a team and you can build business essentially. So that much credit you will get. So you will, I think, you will get a hearing from all VCs, but that does not necessarily mean that it will get to a like funding stage. There's no guarantee for that.
Sure, thanks.
All right. So you first and then last, ma'am. After that, we'll close it up. So let me give you a mic. Can I borrow your mic, guys? No, just speak so that people at the back can hear.
So hi, my name is Pranav, and I had this one fundamental question to all the founder CEOs here. So, is there a fundamental difference between being a founder and being a CEO or an executive role? Are there any learnings in place on how to be a successful founder CEO? We've seen, in the last couple of years, some founders not being successful CEOs and stuff. So, if founders on the chair here can share some experiences about how to balance between a founder and CEO, and tell also the difference between being a founder and a CEO to budding entrepreneurs so that they understand the responsibility areas in both areas. Or if you don't feel that there's a difference at all, being a founder or a CEO.
I think it's a good question, but if I were to look at it, what is common between, say, a founder and a CEO? I think we should not get confused between a founder and a CEO. We should say, okay, these are leaders. And when you're running a ship or when you're running a mission, you need to be, as a leader, saying that, what is it that I need to do as a leader of this ship for the first 2 to 3 years? And what is it that, and how do I adapt from 3 to 6 years? That's it, because the scale changes. Yeah. So as long as you have great adaptability and you're able to deal with phase 1 and phase 2, I would think that for most startups, I'm probably biased towards saying that you don't need another CEO, okay? Because for the first 7, 8 years, you're discovering. You're the best guy to go out and discover things and very quickly execute what you've discovered. So if you have to erase something from the wall, you're the best guy. If you have to read, if you need to go ahead and probably get your forces, pivot, they're going to listen only to you. So keeping that in mind, I'm probably of the view that keep in mind that you're a leader and you could tell yourself that yes, you're a founder or a CEO.
So my take is that, look, if you're a founder, CEO, you practically own the ship, right? The day you don't feel the passion of running the thing, then maybe get a professional CEO and let him run it. Like I've done it in various my other businesses where I feel more passion about some other new businesses, like digital is something I imbibe with. Every morning I think of 20 different ideas and just going out to get them things done. The moment the passion dies down, you can get a professional CEO who can scale it up further. You should also have the self-realization, you know that you are the biggest stumbling block to your business, please get away. So that thought you need to have.
Hi, this is Aditi. I have a question about, so most of the startups that we're talking about today are .coms. 99% of them are internet-based or mobile-based companies. Do you think we're moving towards another .com bubble wherein so many internet-based companies are actually creating a problem for you than solving them? For instance, look at the sheer number of mobile wallets we have today. It's creating a problem for me to understand and remember where have I saved my money. So do you think we're moving towards a bubble which is going to bust, or are we moving towards a great consolidation, very, very highly fragmented industry, which is an internet-based companies?
So on the wallet piece, let me tell you, I think we still have less number of wallets, not more. Primarily because if you see today on the online world, there are less than 100,000 merchants online. It's a huge uptake to take the other way. Same thing if you see from the unbanked perspective. Okay, there's a huge millions and millions of customers still unbanked. The wallet companies you see today will formally either become a payments bank. We're providing a low-cost bank, as you call it, just like how LCCs dominated the airline. A low-cost bank with technology can revolutionize, can give a lot of services. So wallet is a stepping stone to go on to a payments bank, or some of those who want to give more convenience for their own services. Like today, say, Ola wallet. Today, you just want to just walk out of a taxi instead of paying money. So wallets is going to move on to many other things. Yes, business model perspective with the kind of money that is being thrown in, that something is a lot to be debated. But yes, there is, I think still a lot of people can innovate and give a lot of value-added services via the wallet route to do domestic remittances, give 101 services to the unbanked people, which are in millions, 3-digit millions in the country.
My comment on that is that we are at a very early stage when it comes to the market opportunity. So whether it is a wallet space or any other space, whether it's the horizontal e-commerce space, any space, you're bound to see right now. Get prepared to see multiple options as a consumer. Let that play out well. And over 2 to 3 years, yes, you may see some element of correction in the market. But if I were to look at it in any sector, what comes to my mind, we are living in a place or we are living in an era where a consumer will always have 4 or 5 options in every category. is how I see it. And in a large, and that's a sign of being in a large market. If you look at telecom operators, there are like 3-4 large guys. If you look at the automobile industry, look at the number of cars. Last week itself, or this week when at the Auto Expo, you had so many new vehicles in the market. Okay? They find their space. They find their piece there. So the market will find its own playground, and consumers will latch on to things which they like, and they will reject things which they don't like.
Kiruba, can I just add?
Yeah, yes, please.
So how many people in the room have a savings bank account? Is there anyone who doesn't have? So your bank basically has a larger share of your wallet, and not everyone or every bank has got into the wallet space. So the opportunity, like even Vishwas mentioned, is significantly high, and there are several people having several needs. So
The wallet was just an example. What I meant was the overall space of internet companies, and like he
See,
said that.
the problem with this question is kind of loaded in a negative connotation that it's bad to have consolidation, right? All cycles of innovation have multiple choices. The good products win, and to be very fair, the guys who are doing other startups are as well talented. They just didn't get the money. They couldn't survive. So they get absorbed into a bed, and they will come back and do something again. The way I see these cycles are essentially that talent is come out, being an entrepreneur is a valid option for something which you can actually sit down and, we are discussing this here with so many audiences, that's a very big thing for me. 10 years ago, if you would have seen, nobody would have heard what a VC is. So I think this is, the most critical element of that. So I don't see any problem in consolidation. It will happen, to your question, because there is going to be a crunch and all not. But I think that is also good, because system gets a shock that, you need to have fund viable businesses. So, there should not be any negative connotation on it, I would say.
Thank you so much, Priyank. Thank you. And unfortunately, that's the end. We don't have time. However, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So please tweet them with your question with the hashtag 10ideas and hashtag startup, and we'll have the panelists look at it and answer your questions back. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm round of applause for the panelists. Guys, thank you so much.